Robie Brozin, as you know, is the founder of Nando's. He is very outspoken in terms of his view, his passion for South Africa, for business, for creating cultures, and we wanted to have this conversation. He was meant to give a presentation, but he decided that he would rather risk a Q&A with me, which is cool, which is very, very cool, because I am greatly looking forward to having this conversation, which I said to him last night was well overdue. We've never had an interview before like this, so it is something that I'm personally greatly looking forward to.
This is Synthesis TV, keeping you on the edge of technology and business.
All right, so firstly, thank you for joining us. It
Pleasure.
is something that I'm sure everybody will enjoy. It's interesting because when we do an exercise and we look at how to market something, we often look at the story branding thing where we say, Apple, if you need to buy a cell phone, well, what do you need? What's the problem that you need to solve? You need to be able to make a phone call and check the internet. But why would I buy an iPhone versus a Samsung versus a something else? Apple sells us status. So I'm buying status. If I want to go to a restaurant for a meal, or if I want a meal, the problem I'm solving is I need to eat. But actually, there's this huge range of options. What am I buying? What am I getting? What's the image when I go to a Nando's?
Well, first, Howie, thank you. Thanks for agreeing to a chat. I can't prepare a presentation, so
I hear you.
and yeah, privileged to be here, Mike, and it was good to see you. We've had a few adventures together, and Alan as well. So good to be here. I think you're buying a brand, but you're buying delicious peri-peri chicken and chips, and hopefully a Coke. Okay, I mean that's where we make our margin. Our small margin is a little bit on the Coke. But the thing is, you're buying. The thing is in the restaurant business. When we started out the restaurant business, we didn't want to be cheap, fast food, because to me, particularly speed and quality of food, don't go well together. If you're holding food a lot and you're just trying to do cheap and nasty, that's really the gap that we saw, was how can you take peri-peri chicken ready to the world, but in a way that positions it slightly premium, that takes it out of the kind of commodity space, because fast food through McDonald's and Burger King really is a commodity. And we didn't want to be in the commodity space. We wanted to be in the brand space. And also, we also wanted to be, so if I look back, and after 36 years at Nando's, looking back, about 10 years ago, we looked back and say, what is Nando's about? And really the core of us is to have fun and make money, to change the way the world thinks about chicken, and to change people's lives one chicken at a time. Okay? Now, I promise you, I can talk for a week on just that statement.
Have you discussed it with the chickens?
We have. We make them fairly nervous, but there is a nervous conversation. But if you look at that, have fun and making money, it's not about making money and having fun. Okay, and that's a critical thing, because and obviously you're in business to make money and to be sustainable, etc. But if you're not having fun, so if the journey is not part of the reward in the organization, don't be on that journey. And so from a Nando's point of view, we've tried to, because the restaurant business is brutal. It's not like you guys. I mean, honestly, you got it so easy.
Yeah, it is easy here.
I promise you.
At all. Yeah.
I discourage anybody here sorry, excuse my back there, guys. It's a bit of a funny thing, but I discourage anybody from getting into the restaurant business. It's the hardest, toughest, most difficult business in the world. Except if you love it. If you love it, it's like the best. And I love it. So for me, I couldn't do anything else. But it really is about enjoying the journey that you're in. And I think any corporate, any culture, so we needed to create a culture that brought people to work and having fun in doing the work, because in having fun, they look after the customer. For us, it's look after our people first, and then the people will look after the customer. It's not the customer. Obviously, the customer is king or queen, but we look after our people first. So most of our kind of spend on marketing is on internal marketing, because we also believe that great brands are built from the inside out. It's not great advertising doesn't sell a lot of chicken. We've been through phases at Nando's where our customer service was horrible and our advertising was excellent. And I'd meet people and say, great ad. I said, when last did you have chicken? 3 months ago. And that's not what that was a core mistake. And so we really had to go back and really understand that it's about the people. And that's why changing lives is such an important part of what we do. So it all flows together.
Yeah, because I think one of the dangers in marketing is that if you market something where there's a disconnect to really what is happening on the ground within the organization, the external culture needing to match the internal culture. And
particularly in the restaurant business, because if you're selling jeans, for example, or shirts, and you in Studfits or Edgar's, whatever you're in, you're on a shelf and people are coming and picking it off and taking it. Like our grocery business is really, it's a business that's for you, I think. Maybe someone's got a better question.
I didn't say call in for questions.
It's a phone in
there yet.
But with a restaurant, it's a factory. You've got live factories every day. That customer interaction is so critical. It's not a bottled product or a product on a shelf. It's a really different experience. I mean, it's hard.
This question might sound offensive, but it really doesn't. It isn't meant to be that way. But to some extent, I often think about Nando's being the EFF of the restaurant industry. Hold on, I need to clarify that. There's a reason I'm saying this. So why am I saying this is, if you look...
How are you going to get out of that being not offensive?
All right, listen to what I'm saying, and it'll actually make sense in a weird sort of a way. If the DA had to make half of the statement half offensive as the EFF would make, and they would be destroyed. The ANC, the same thing. If the ANC had to say what the EFF says, they would never get away with it. If McDonald's had to try, and we've seen every now and then some of your competitors trying to become a little bit more cheeky and out there, they get hammered because it isn't who they are. How did you get to that point?
All right, no, and I get it, and I that's why I love your work. I promise you. You somehow can connect things. You remind me, and I hope I'm not being offensive.
All right, well, here we go. Yeah.
There was a great guy by the name of David Bullard, Out to Lunch. Did you ever read his work?
I used to love his stuff, and then he got cancelled, didn't he?
Yeah, and I used to buy the Sunday Times to read him, and the Jewish Report reminds me of the work. I get the Jewish Report to read your book, because you've got an ability to connect stuff, and that is an earned thing in our cheekiness. The only reason we can do that, and actually it's quite a difficult positioning to be in now, because people are expecting you to be cheeky, and when we started out, the kind of wokeness and the kind of speed at which things are regurgitated or coming at you at the time, and we wouldn't do anything different, but the whole positioning started because we had no money and we needed to position ourselves in a way that could get noticed. And so we partnered with an agency called Hunt Lascaris, who were starting out on their own. So John Hunt is a legendary advertising guy, and we sat with John and had a great marketing director at the time, Josie McKenzie, and she said, our brief to the agency was, we want you guys to be scared on the work that we're going to give you. So we're giving you an open brief, because we had nothing really to lose. We were 3-4 restaurants. You're up against KFC and some of the big guys. I mean, Bimbo's was a massive chain in those days. And Longhorn, and there were chains that were quite relevant, 16, 20 restaurants, we had 3. And so we basically said, make yourself nervous, and at the same time, we'll back you on that. And that was the kind of architecture of the brand, and we started getting a lot of publicity and a lot of kind of impact for you. We basically invest $1 and get $10 back. My chance for somebody to phone me.
Want me to take it?
That's my mother, sorry. Yes. She doesn't like my answer.
Clearly.
How can you call the EFF?
Right,
You see, on
yeah,
social
I'm
media
surprised
already.
she's not phoning
You're already
me.
on social media. And I think it's something that we didn't plan, to be honest, but it's something that's crept in from day one, and it's given us the credibility to say what we want to say. It's very much like the naughty kid in the family gets away with murder, whereas the really good kid comes along, says one thing, and really, everyone looks and says, how can you say that? So we've got that kind of right now to say what we need to say. And now it's a bit more tricky because, the speed at which social media goes and the kind of, and you know what it's like. I mean, and I'm sure you get it, but people that disagree with you, the kind of, you being able to defend yourself, when you haven't got the right, you've got the right to the press to a certain extent, so you can make a statement. But when you haven't, you can't argue against social media and the kind of waves of negativity. People are just soundbite kind of, and things can turn positive or negative very, very quickly. So, and it's also global now. So you make a statement here, it can affect what's going on in Texas.
So has that impacted your creativity?
Sorry?
Has that almost fear, not fear, but
not fear. It's made us tone down slightly. So in a way, we've grown up. I don't like to say that, but in a way, we've had to grow up a little bit. We've also had to be more kind of relevant to the local market. So we have to talk very much that you make a statement in South Africa that really doesn't impact UK or Australia. Whereas in the past we never thought of that. We just make a statement. And now you've got to think it through. It's got to be very local. That really got to be local to understand what we're saying, which is actually exciting. It's a very, we in a good space on that.
Well, that is something that is uniquely South African, is that maybe not uniquely, but our humor, our style of humor, our ability to laugh at ourselves across the board. Something happens in South Africa, you go onto Twitter, it's a funny place to be.
Yeah, I think we really are lucky as South Africans. I hope we'll talk a bit about South Africa, but we're so privileged to be here. Freedom of speech is really something that is available in South Africa. In a lot of countries, you can't. And not only freedom of speech in terms of the government kind of locking you, but the people. If you can talk to the people, there's a really funny way that you can communicate. But you have to understand it. You've really got to be part of the people. So we're lucky.
Yeah, it is incredible. I actually want to talk about an example. You came out with that game, Zanzi-Nopoli, whatever it was called, and it was really, really funny. And I wrote an article for News 24, and I actually just used this as an example about how Nando's is, to some extent, taking the pulse of South Africans, and actually they're capturing it in a way that allows us to laugh at ourselves, to celebrate ourselves. And I just wrote it as a column, and I got a message from your department to say they just want to send me something to say thank you, which they really didn't need to do. It was my opinion, which I wrote anyway. But the gift that they sent me was so memorable. I've often used it as an example in our own marketing meetings. They sent me, now I can't say a pair, but it was meant to be, it was a pair of socks, but it had 3 socks in it, which was so clever because you lose, everybody loses one of your socks, and I got 3 socks. And I just thought to myself, that is so clever. It's so out the box. It's so ridiculous. But I remembered it. I use it as an example. I've lost all 3, by the way, but which is my gift. But was my gift. That's what. Anyway, and just a remarkable thing. And obviously, it's that off-the-wall thinking that has become very much part of the brand.
Yeah, very much. It's just thinking differently in a way. Inspired by the Apple kind of think differently. In every aspect, you've got to be thoughtful on everything that you do. And it's not only thoughtful on the chicken and chips, but thoughtful on every aspect, because every single aspect is a customer interaction. And, again, great brands are built from the inside out. It's not from the outside in. And it's how you communicate. And every little touch point we like to think we've given consideration to. And that's, that kind of gifting is a very, very big debate in our business. Yeah. How to gift, what to gift. Because there's no point in just giving a crap gift to somebody,
And it's not about the value. It's just about the message and the thought.
Yeah. And if I'm going to give you a Nando shirt, I mean, you'd probably never wear it because I'm asking you to be a billboard. But if I give you a beautiful shirt that has Nando's on the inside, but something that you'd want to wear, you might wear.
100%.
So it's a whole lot of philosophy. There's a lot of stuff.
One of the challenges that obviously exist is, and it's something that we wanted to get to, is to talk about, obviously, the diversity within South Africa, the challenges, the adversity that we deal with in South Africa is sometimes very painful, sometimes very, very hard to see, but ultimately provides an opportunity to better lives. That's been very much part of your philosophy. Take us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, the kind of challenges that we've had in building a brand from South Africa to the world is quite a difficult thing. And I mean, 10% of the South African revenue and 10% of the profit is from South Africa, 90% is global. And so you've got to, coming from here, trying to get the kind of, so the amplification or, just the kind of relevance. How do you become relevant in a world where you're sitting around a boardroom table and 10% of your home market is the profits? Okay, if you take Coca-Cola, take any of the major global brands, 80% of their local, wherever they've come from, is local market, because it's mainly American brands that have really truly cracked it globally. And so how do you bring a relevance back to South Africa where money doesn't become the actual currency of credibility? And so we thought that through very carefully, and one of the biggest currencies that we think we have as South Africans is creativity. That the South Africans are incredibly creative. And I think that kind of challenge, and we also be resilient. It's enough already about being resilient. We're past resilience now. Resilience is over. I've had it with resilience. We really have to be creative to survive in South Africa today. Okay, and we've translated that creativity into the global Nando's world, okay, which is starting to infiltrate in a lot of the decisions and stuff that we've been doing worldwide. And so we've turned the kind of adversity of being in South Africa, there's just so many things that are so difficult in South Africa that if you treat them as adversity or you treat them as an opportunity for creativity to impact the rest of the world, is really the opportunity. And that's what we've done very well in terms of, 90% of our business is international. So we've now, and very, very fortunate, like incredibly fortunate, to have shareholders that share in our vision, which is critical. And without shareholders that, we're partners with the Enthoven family. We've been partners for 34 years together. They were mad enough to partner with us. And Dick Enthoven was unfortunately passed away last year, but he was the guy that actually took the investment. And then Robie, his son, so it's next generation, working closely with them. And the Enthovens are just a spectacular family that share the vision of what we're doing, which is how do you impact and change lives from South Africa to the world using creativity. So we've now signed off, just for example, all our art around the restaurants around the world will come from South Africa. All our kind of designs and beautiful restaurants that are being developed around the world, like 30-40% of the tables, chairs, light fittings from South Africa. But that stimulated an incredible creative system, and our creatives are just spectacular. We're now extending that into clothing, so all clothing of all our uniforms is coming from South Africa, which stimulates local jobs. Now, I mean, the practicality of that is that you can buy a shirt from China for $1, and you pay $2 and get a worse quality shirt that can't be shipped because of Transnet of borders. So how do you compete?
Tell us how you really feel. Yeah.
How do you compete? So you got to compete by creativity and storytelling, and that turns the nature of the problem. And I tell you, the world is like looking forward to our next 3 pairs of socks. That's where that idea comes from, because they're not thinking of that in England, and they're not thinking of that.
And it's so interesting because you're not looking at it, as you said,
from an adversary.
Exactly. You're saying, how can we be creative So, and then I think a lot of people are living with this anxiety about South Africa, the future, what's happening. How do we balance these two? Because I think you're right. I mean, there's nothing more boring than Long Island in the United States. It's death, because there's no creativity. It's just life as it's somebody's perceived that it's meant to be, but dull as hell. So how do we embrace what we have here, which is sometimes difficult, sometimes unbearably difficult, with the creativity, with the humor, with the diversity that is South Africa?
I mean, and this gets into a bit of a serious topic, and I brought some reading material, okay? And I'm going to actually challenge everybody here. I want to just get a view, because I know you know the answer. But we as South Africans, okay, have gone through an incredible journey, okay? From the darkest times. I mean, South Africa under apartheid was just, I can't even begin to imagine what it was like. And I was on the wrong side of that. And I was never in the struggle. You know, I was born in Middelburg. I came to Joburg. I jolled around. I went to the army. I spent 2 years in the army. Okay, I wasn't brave enough to join the struggle. I went to Wits. Didn't do anything with, you know, I came out 2 years. I was 2 years older than everybody, so I just wanted to graduate. I hated my time at Wits. I wanted to just get out. I failed accounts 3 times, or accounts 4 times. I couldn't remember what I did. I just finished and moved on. And for me, South Africa was, I always felt that we would overcome the kind of adversities at a really high level. But I never lived, I was privileged in that position. And then I met a guy called Van Zyl Slabbert, who was friendly with the Enthovens, and I got to really understand the politics and really understand the people of South Africa, meeting Trevor Manuel and meeting a whole lot of like political people that were banned or exiled in the ANC, and realized that they were human beings. And their thinking wasn't dissimilar to my thinking, even though I'd been like in the army. They really twisted your head in a way. And then you come through with the release of Mandela, and I mean, the worst times was the Rubicon speech. You remember it clearly. I mean, South Africa, the rand was just everything was just horrendous. We had so much issues against us. Then you come through with the Mandela release, and then those kind of moments of, you know, the time that Mandela was released to the time of signing of the Constitution was more blood shed in that period than in the whole of the struggle. And we ended up as South Africans with a constitution. Okay, and most South Africans don't even know we're a constitutional democracy or know that we even have a constitution. And most people don't know the gold that constitution is. What a valuable document that is, and what an incredible process it was to get to that constitution. And so we're sitting with something that is absolutely priceless, and yet we don't really know about it. And I want to just take we're in a sealed environment here. It's one of those, I don't know, we're not going to tell anybody any secrets.
I might, but no one else here, I think would.
Who's read the preamble to the Constitution here? Honestly. Okay, so.
Why?
Yeah. so you're waiting for me. That's why. I'm going to read it to you, okay? And if after reading this, you don't feel inspired to be a South African, okay, and to realize that why should you be in South Africa? What was the struggle about? Okay, and then for me, the fact that we can then build on that struggle to make a better South Africa, because this is the fundamental of who we are. This, I promise you, this document, I read it for the first time 7 years ago, and I'm a trustee at the Constitutional Yield Trust, and I'm just saying to that because I am punting the Constitution. It's part of what I do as a trustee is to try and promote the Constitution to the people of South Africa. So, you know, the fee that you're paying me is me reading the Constitution. I renegotiated the fee, and I'm now getting paid back.
Negotiation,
now you're getting paid. Okay, so this is the preamble. It's a whole long thing. We, the people of South Africa, okay, and that talks about civil society. It talks about you as an individual. Recognize the injustices of our past. Honor those who have suffered for justice and freedom in our land. Respect those who have worked to build and develop our country, and believe that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity. We therefore, through our freely elected representatives, adopt this Constitution as the supreme law of the Republic, so as to. And now here is our job description. This is any organization, in my mind, any organization wants to play a meaningful role in a new South Africa, here's the job description. Heal the divisions of the past and establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. Lay the foundations for a democratic and open society in which government is based on the will of the people and every citizen is equally protected by law. Improve the quality of life of all citizens and free the potential of each person, and build a united and democratic South Africa, able to take its rightful place as a sovereign state in the family of nations. May God protect our people. Nkosi Sikeleli Africa, Morena Baloko se Chaba se Jesu, Khotsi in South Africa, God bless South Africa, Mutsumi Falatsi Africa, Hosi Kitseka Africa. Now, if you tell me that as any organization, capital appreciation, if you don't believe in improving the quality of life of all people and free the potential of each person and build a united and democratic South Africa able to take its rightful place as a sovereign state in the family of nations, that's what you are to do. I mean, I'm assuming that's what you are to do. And to be world class, that tells me about being world class. And so this is what the struggle was. This is who we are. This is what we can do as South Africans. And yet we don't even know the goal that was put in front of us. And that was the struggle. The struggle was to create. Madiba fought for this document. The fact that government have ignored it and the fact that government haven't implemented probably 99% of it is to a certain extent civil society's problem as well. And corporates were complicit. So let's not give government, it's not only government, and let's also say that not all government are bad. There's some flippin' good people in government. And, but now's our time. And so Nando's did an ad a couple of months ago, which was around, no power doesn't mean we're powerless. Okay, and it said, Amandla awetu again. Okay, we've got a chance for a second struggle. The first struggle was against apartheid. This struggle is against poverty. And it's up to us as all individuals to fight for the struggle now. And the opportunities are just so enormous if you do things in a different way. Because if you're going to try and do it in the same way that you've done it every time, we're not going to get a benefit. So everything's broken. I mean, the opportunities that you guys have in technology, I mean, it's like government are just so useless. There's just, and that's the opportunity. I mean, if you just think about the opportunity, throw a dart, there's an opportunity. You know what I mean? In other words, so you say, well, how do you do it? How can you? How can I, or how can we as an organization do it? You can't do it through the traditional ways, because also there's no trust. There's no trust. There's white monopoly capital, and to a certain extent, that's true. We're not adjusting we're not recognizing some of the injustice of the past. So how do you work with certain things? Do things differently. Some of the projects that we've been working on, we've been working with Wits University, and through Wits, we're impacting Baragwanath Hospital. Now, it's not through Nando's directly with Barra. What relationship do we have with Barra? But through Wits, you can do things that actually do to impact you, help Wits and Barra get closer together. And also, you don't have to work with the Department of Health. You work with Wits that have got a mandate to do things at Barra. So just find the channels that work differently. Think differently. I mean, just whatever you do, think differently. But the opportunities, I'm telling my son, I'm telling everyone that will half listen to me, what a privilege to be in South Africa at this particular point in time. There is, I promise you. And Rhode Island, you can sit in Sydney, you can sit in Tel Aviv. The world is not in a better place. I mean, we have a fundamental constitution. Israel does not have a constitution, okay? So they've still got to go through the process before they get to the point that we're at. The fact that we're not adhering and running the constitution is our fault. We as citizens need to vote. We as citizens, you must vote next year. We've got to hold government accountable. We've got to be more vocal. What you've done, your kind of stance that you've taken, that's why I love your work, because you're poking your finger in the eye of government all the time. And they're not arguing. I mean, they're not probably taking you out, and it's probably quite dangerous sitting next to you here. But they're not, but you're right. And you're just holding them to account, and we have to do that more and more. But the biggest right we have is the right to vote. And the fact that, I don't know the stats, but 10 or 15 or 20% of the voters actually register to vote. And then
I'm sure everybody here is going to vote next year.
You have to. I mean, you have to vote. You know, it's just one of those things where you think, don't just give up. Don't think that one person can't make a difference. You can. It's such an important thing to have that civil society standing up and doing stuff. So I just think South Africa, I don't think there's a better place in the world. I think that from a business opportunity point of view, from a community point of view, from the kindness of people in South Africa, I mean, look at the guys on the side of the road directing traffic. You got on tick, high as anything, directing traffic into Hyde Park Shopping Centre.
And doing it very well, actually.
And we're listening to the, I mean, I'm going straight in. I just thought, I listened to some oak, and he's forgiven the fact that he's not collecting loot on the corner.
Yeah,
and he's given up his kind of day job.
We all
to
listen
help.
to them, and we respect it.
Yeah, and respect it, and it works. And the JMPD sit on the side and watch this oak. Imagine the dignity you have if a homeless guy can do your job. Imagine how I don't know, just. And yet, we as South Africans, we make a plan, okay, but we have to stop it. We're doing something so interesting at the moment. I promise you, we're working with Wits, an Anglo-American, okay, to change we're redefining the inner city of Joburg. Okay, you must check this project.
You weren't part of the whole gas thing. I mean, it wasn't part of the implosion, break it before you build it.
We set it up just to bring some attention back. Because there wasn't enough attention to the city.
Right, exactly.
But if you look at Joburg, okay, and I don't know, you can ask perceptions of Joburg. People think Joburg is so broken, and it is so broken. We've got revolving mayors and all that kind of stuff. You know how many good people there are doing good stuff in Joburg? Do you know what CAP are doing at the moment? Have you seen what CAP are doing?
CAP Green as well. Yeah,
at Green stuff. I mean, have you seen? But they're doing stuff at another level. Bishop Paul Verreyn, you must see what he's doing in the city. MES, Maharishi Institute, Teddy Blatcher. Have you seen what Teddy's up to? These are guys that are invisible, that are just doing stuff that you cannot believe. Going to Hillbrow today, you think it's completely broken. There's some parts that you just can't go. But it's incredible how people, and it's individuals that are doing stuff. And all we need to do is make the invisible visible, because the visible are invisible at the moment. And that's our mission, working very closely with Anglo and with Wits. And I tell you what, and all the banks that are in the city. And I tell you, we've come up with a concept. You'll see it slowly starting to work its way through, called Josie, My Josie, being led by the creatives, actually changing the mood of the inner city of Joburg. And as I said earlier, one thing we've got an abundance of is creativity in South Africa. Artists, musicians, any kind of visual or creative art. I mean, so hopefully that brings hope, brings dignity, also makes you feel like you can be part of a purposeful thing. It was Rabbi Sachs that said hope equals optimism plus action. You can't just be optimistic. You've got to start doing stuff. But we all feel a bit helpless. Like, what can you do? I'm tired of, you give out money on the corner. That's just compassionate giving. It's not finding a solution. You've got to find a permanent solution. And there's so many good people doing good things. We're just going to channel. So hopefully in the next couple of months, and it's probably a 20-year project. It's not going to be, we'll make some announcements of how to get involved in some projects. But watch out for Josie, My Josie. It'll be interesting.
Brilliant. That is unfortunately all we have time for.
Your money's run out.
I
only paid for.
Does anybody have any cash on them? No. So thank you for that. Certainly inspiring. Talking to many of the themes that we have been speaking about today, which is recognition of individuals, creativity, finding opportunity, embracing everything that is around us in a positive way. So without you having been here for the first part of it, you really did capture exactly what it was that we were speaking about.